That's what they're mad about. 41 nationally televised games, and they are furious over it. I can't understand.
The WNBA isn't dealing with a little internal drama right now. It's in the middle of a full-blown fan base feud. On one end, you've got A'ja Wilson and her band of salty sidekicks allegedly whispering sweet nothings about boycotting Caitlin Clark games. And on the other side, oh, just the millions of brand new fans Caitlin dragged into women's basketball by sheer force of talent and charm, all wondering why anyone would go out of their way to hate on the person saving the league's relevance.
But you want to boycott the one player, looking right at you, Angel Reese and A'ja Wilson, one player that has caused the revenue to go way up in the monetary values. That's what you want to do. You think you're helping these women?
Let's just say it. The WNBA has never been this hot. Indiana Fever games are selling out like Beyoncé tickets. ESPN can't stop adding WNBA slots to its schedule. And social media is drowning in clips, highlights, and Caitlin Clark debates. But instead of popping champagne and cashing in on this surge, a few bitter veterans and their fan base are treating the whole thing like an existential threat. Apparently, the real enemy isn't mediocrity or irrelevance. It's success, especially when it's Caitlin's.
The original fans, activist fans, that's what they are, all right? Just keeping it real. They don't like the fact that you want to watch these games. They don't like the fact that you are 3 or 4 times the amount of them.
You catch the news lately? There's practically an all-out fan skirmish brewing over the fact that Caitlin Clark's games are airing nationally 41 times this season. That's more than anyone else in the league. And some people are so mad about it, you'd think Clark stole their lunch money. The internet is now flooded with dramatic calls for protest, like we're in some sort of overhyped teen dystopian novel, all because one rookie dared to get attention.
Right here, Caitlin Clark in the Fever will have more nationally televised game than any NBA player this year. Sorry, LeBron. Sorry, Luka. Sorry, every other player in the league. Let's be honest. I've seen the NBA ratings. She's beaten most of them.
Believe it or not, there are WNBA fans, grown adults, mind you, who are actively planning to boycott Fever games to bring down the ratings. Imagine being so mad about someone else's spotlight that your grand strategy is to tank your own league's numbers. And no, this isn't just a fringe Reddit thread gone rogue. Some of these boycott cheerleaders are actually tied to WNBA media circles, straight up encouraging people to skip the games or watch through sketchy streams, as if that'll teach ESPN a lesson or something.
So they're all mad right now, furious, and my goodness, guys, they're talking boycott. Oh, what? Oh, there's strength in numbers. There's tens of you.
But here's the reality. Caitlin Clark isn't just outshining the WNBA stars. She's on track to outshine the NBA's biggest names too. She's got more national TV games this season than LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant. That's not a fluke. That's a shift in the entire sport's power dynamic. This isn't about airtime, it's about who's commanding the spotlight in basketball culture now. And spoiler alert, it's not A'ja Wilson.
And yes, I understand. This is a very, very small minority. It is a very small minority of people, but it is a loud, vocal minority. And this is not the general public. This is not the general population.
Let's talk about Wilson for a second, because wow, if jealousy was a stat line, she'd be leading the league. While Caitlin Clark is out here shattering viewership records and selling out arenas, A'ja's been posting more subtweets than box scores. Instead of riding the wave of new attention, she's been too busy throwing shade like it's a defensive drill. It's almost impressive how someone that accomplished can sound that bitter. You'd think the WNBA handed Caitlin her own network and a parade float the way A'ja's acting. What's wild is that she isn't losing anything. She's just not used to sharing. She's had the spotlight for years, unbothered and unchallenged. Now someone younger, flashier, and quite frankly, more marketable steps in, and suddenly it's Caitlin's getting too much attention this, and the league's playing favorites that. Newsflash: attention isn't a charity, it's earned. and Clark's been putting on a nightly masterclass while Wilson's giving bitter big sister energy in the group chat.
Asia Wilson is her name. Quote, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is."
You'd think a 3-time MVP would be a little more secure. But watching Wilson react to Clark's rise is like watching a Netflix star realize their show got canceled mid-season because something better came out. It's not Caitlyn's fault that fans are tuning in for her, and not for salty Twitter threads. The cameras follow the storyline, and right now, Asia's stuck playing the antagonist in a drama she volunteered for. The truth is, a small group of legacy fans who've been around since the days of empty bleachers and halftime t-shirt tosses are feeling like their secret club just got blown wide open. They stuck with the league when it was niche, and now that it's going mainstream thanks to Clark, they're clutching their pearls like they just saw someone step on their vintage merch.
We're not supposed to talk about it out loud, maybe. That's a massive part. Straight white girl's a big part of it too. I mean, it's out loud. It's out loud. It just came out of my mouth like that. Just easy peasy. So they're mad, and they are calling for boycotts.
And let's be honest, this so-called boycott movement isn't about fairness or justice. It's about ego. It's about a few longtime fans and players who'd rather see the league shrink than watch Clark be the face of its future. Some media voices have already called them out for being ridiculous, pointing out that most real fans are too busy enjoying the games to cry about airtime.
The Slows are now planning to, quote, boycott Indiana Fever games to affect the viewership. They really think they matter in the big scheme of things.
What we're witnessing is classic gatekeeping behavior. The OG fans who think they own the league's identity are panicking now that new blood is changing the game. This has happened in every fandom ever, from hip-hop heads complaining about TikTok rappers to comic book purists raging over blockbuster movie adaptations. It's all the same insecure energy.
It's just mad. And what they have now trying to do is they are trying to boycott Indiana Fever games. I'm not joking when I say this. They are literally saying, boycott Indiana. We need to all boycott the Indiana Fever games so they don't get more national TV games. We don't get more national TV games next year.
Meanwhile, the boycott logic doesn't even add up. If you actually care about the players and the league's success, deliberately tanking viewership is about the dumbest move imaginable. Clark isn't the only one getting paid here. Her success is raising the league's profile, which means more money for everyone. This petty protest could backfire so hard, it'll end up hurting the very players the boycotters claim to support.
Cannot believe it. And again, this is a minority of people, but the problem is the idiotic minority somehow have, a lot of them somehow have ins with WNBA players, WNBA teams and stuff. I cannot believe it.
Let's talk numbers. Before Caitlyn showed up, WNBA games were doing okay if they scraped 200,000 viewers per game. Now, we're seeing over 1 million on the regular. That's not just growth. That's a ratings explosion. That jump isn't some vanity metric either. It's literal money in the league's pockets. More viewers mean better ad deals, which means fatter paychecks. But sure, let's boycott that.
Ad equivalent. I just can't believe it. But they're reasoning for boycotting the Fever games. They're literally saying, we should illegally stream the games when the Fever play our team. And I'm like, one, you are not a big enough percentage of the population for it to have any effect.
Here's how the money trail actually works. Player salaries are directly connected to media rights deals. These are the giant contracts that networks like ABC, ESPN, and CBS sign to get broadcast access. And those contracts, they're driven entirely by viewership. The more people watching, the more these networks will cough up. It's business 101. Yet somehow this seems to escape the boycott crowd.
All that does is harm the players. No matter who you are, what team you are a fan of, if you want the players to make more money...
And guess what? The WNBA is currently in the middle of renegotiating its collective bargaining agreement. That means this is the single worst time to be pouting in the corner and sabotaging ratings. Networks are watching Clark bring in massive audiences and mentally adjusting their checkbooks. If the league plays this right, those high viewership games could raise the financial ceiling for every single player. But if the boycott nonsense gets traction, that ceiling might come crashing down.
They're actively trying to ungrow the game. And it's madness. It's absolutely madness. Like, they're threatening to boycott the Fever Games. All 257 of them threatening to boycott Fever Games like it makes any difference. Like, these people are not fans of basketball. These people are actually not fans of the WNBA.
Let's just break this down. Caitlin Clark shows up, and suddenly the WNBA starts pulling 5 to 10 times more viewers than usual. That's not a mild bump, that's a straight-up seismic shift. And with that kind of heat, the networks are foaming at the mouth. They're not just willing to renegotiate, they're practically throwing their wallets at the league. This is the kind of attention the WNBA has been chasing for decades, and now that it's here, some folks want to boycott, make it make sense.
They just don't like Caitlin Clark. Like, this is genuinely, it's nothing to do with basketball, and it's nothing to do with Caitlin Clark, the person. There's no rhyme or reason to it, because I don't think there is a harder person to dislike.
What makes this whole anti-Clark movement hilariously tragic is who's leading it. A lot of the same people who've been yelling for years about how WNBA players deserve higher pay are now trying to sabotage the very force that could deliver it. These fans wanted the league to be respected, visible, and profitable. And now that a rookie is dragging all those dreams into reality with record-breaking numbers, they've suddenly decided that success is too mainstream for their tastes.
They just don't like Caitlin Clark. It's a personal thing, and they will literally. These people, again, they're not fans of basketball, they're not fans of the WNBA, they're not fans of any teams. They just don't like Caitlin Clark.
It's almost poetic how short-sighted these boycott backers are. They're out here acting like viewership is some zero-sum game, as if one person getting attention somehow takes it away from everyone else. But that's not how any of this works. High ratings don't just mean more people watching Clark, they mean more ticket sales, more jerseys flying off the shelves, more buzz around every team. It means sponsors who didn't even know the WNBA existed now want in on the action. Everyone wins, except, apparently, common sense.
I don't think they understand there's no viewership before Clark. So if they boycott, would it really move the needle?
And no, Caitlin Clark isn't out here hoarding cash like she's the villain in a heist movie. The money she's helping generate is shared league-wide. Salary caps go up. Minimum salaries increase. Players who've spent years grinding for modest checks finally have a shot at real compensation. That's not favoritism. That's the tide rising. And yet, the haters would rather sink the boat just so Caitlin doesn't get to steer it.
And it's a situation where they move the goalpost. They'll always move the goalpost. You're seeing, like, prominent figures in the WNBA media-ish space. And the reason I say media-ish space is the Twitter trolls somehow interact with the damn actual media in a two-way conversations every day. It's mental.
But here's the real kicker. In what other sport do fans actively organize to ignore their most popular star? Can you imagine NFL fans boycotting Patrick Mahomes' games out of spite? Or NBA fans deciding to sit out Steph Curry's TV appearances because he's too marketable? It's absurd. This isn't just a weird moment. It's a glaring example of how differently women's sports are treated when someone actually starts winning the fame game.
If us sports fans wanted to watch this crap before Caitlin Clark got involved, we would have been watching it. I mean, I own 2 sports channels. I get paid for talking about sports for a living. I was not watching this league.
Let's not dance around it. There's a thick layer of jealousy suffocating certain corners of the WNBA fan and media ecosystem. You've got legacy commentators and crusty Twitter users acting like Caitlin Clark's success is some sort of personal insult. Their line of thinking? We suffered for this league, and now you're just going to show up and shine? Yes. Yes, she is. That's what happens when you're that good.
Is it possible to boycott just one team's games? Like we all just illegally stream them if they're playing one of our teams? ? That's the plan. Okay, Deidre.
Psychologically, it makes sense. These are folks who've spent years gatekeeping women's basketball. They built niche communities, learned every roster, followed preseason trades like stock tips, and now millions of new fans are flooding in and asking where Caitlyn's merch is. It's classic turf anxiety. Suddenly, the thing they knew everything about belongs to the masses, and it's being redefined by someone who wasn't part of the old crew. That's tough if your ego is fragile.
I'm talking about the old WNBA media. I'm not talking about the ones that are in 5 years' time, they'll still be there. The old WNBA media that are shaking their fist at the screen every single time they see somebody that was not there with them when no one was watching getting an opportunity in the media that they didn't get, even though they're sitting there in spaces with Twitter trolls talking nonsense about players.
Of course, not every criticism of Clark is bogus. When people talk about her defense or her attitude with refs, that's all fair game. Sports analysis is supposed to exist. But when you realize male players are out here flopping like fish and barking at officials without anyone blinking, the microscope aimed at Clark starts looking mighty suspicious. The scrutiny is laced with double standards, and everyone sees it.
I mean, the level of dumb here, we're on a whole new scale, all right? We've reached a whole new level. I literally said, is this real? I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I couldn't. They really think they matter. Typical slows.
And how about the constant moving of the goalposts? First it was, she won't handle college ball. She crushed it. Then it was, she won't survive the pros. Newsflash, she's not just surviving, she's thriving. Now it's, she's too hyped, or she's stealing attention. At this point, critics aren't interested in fairness. They're just scrambling for a new reason to discredit her because the old ones keep getting torched by reality.
I mean, they truly are pirating the the vehicularly challenged bus at this point. All right, that's what's happening. These people are just dumb. I can't even deal.
What's truly hilarious is that these so-called real fans claim to care about the league's integrity by trying to destroy its ratings. They're out here pushing anti-viewership agendas like they're freedom fighters when in reality, they're just sabotaging their own side. And then they have the nerve to call Clark's fans fake for showing up and caring. Imagine being so allergic to success that you'd rather implode the whole league than share the love.
This is the heroes and legends among legends that don't even shiver the needle. That needle hadn't even shaken. It hadn't even accidentally, there ain't even been no accidental motion out of it. It's just like nothing. Nothing. They want a boycott. Okay. Tell me how that works out.
This whole spectacle isn't just jealousy, it's a philosophical turf war. On one side, you've got the keepers of the old WNBA flame, the ones who liked it better when it was underground, gritty, and underappreciated. On the other side, a massive wave of new fans who are ready to see women's basketball blow up in the mainstream, led by a once-in-a-generation superstar. It's punk rock versus pop stardom, and Clark is headlining the stadium tour. But here's the thing. None of this backlash changes the reality. Clark is lifting the league, whether the haters like it or not. Attendance is up. Merchandise is flying. Teams are seeing sold-out crowds not because someone retweeted a nice pass, but because Clark has made people care. She's not just boosting herself. She's a rising tide washing over every roster.
No matter what social media wants you to believe, most people are sound. Most people you meet are good people. It's just the minority of idiots are a very loud minority of idiots.
This isn't the time for tribalism. This is the time for celebration. Women's sports have fought for decades to be seen, to matter, to be part of the conversation. And now, with this momentum, we're finally there. Sponsors are dialing in, executives are cashing out, players are seeing the dollars stack. And what's sparking this revolution? A rookie with a jump shot and national charisma. Instead of splitting the fan base, this should be the moment that unites it. Think about what happened with women's soccer, with tennis. As stars emerged and drew the crowds, the whole sport benefited. That's what's possible here, if we stop bickering and start building. Clark is the bridge to that future, and the smart move is to walk across it, not burn it down. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.